Hello, and I'm back with another cosplay build, this time for Arcane Vi. I watched the show and was so impressed and wanted to make this cosplay. The first thing I made for this cosplay was the wig. I had a pink wig just lying around that I wasn't using for anything, so I decided I would just alter it to fit Vi. I started off by sectioning out her side cut and just took length off with my scissors, slowly but surely getting it to where I thought looked good. The wig was more of a dusty rose color, and Vi's hair is very vibrant reddish pink color, so I dyed it with some synthetic RIT dye. I saved some of the hair I cut off to use to test the color, and once it was where I liked it, I went ahead and put the whole wig in the pot. Good soup. Once the wig was dry, I then dyed her buzz cut with a mixture of Sharpie ink and rubbing alcohol, and just used a paintbrush to paint over the buzz cut with that new color. I then washed the dye out and moved on to styling the wig. With the wig finished, I then moved on to the tank top and hoodie. The pattern for the hoodie, I just altered this one piece pattern I had before and then cut out a general hood shape and sewed the two together. I also cut out the hood shape in black for the lining of the hood. For the tank top, I started with a masking tape pattern. I basically just wrapped my torso up in saran wrap and masking tape, and then on top of that, I drew where I wanted the seams to be in any other designs on the tank top. Then I just cut apart the pattern and then transferred it onto paper, which then I took to my fabric. I attached the straps I made by pinning them between the lining and outer layer of the shirt, and just sewed the two together, and they were sandwiched in between, looking all nice and neat. For the decorative piece on the front of her tank top, I just used some foam and cut out the shape and then glued the foam directly onto some of the fabric I used for the straps. And then I cut in between the holes and glued back the excess fabric. Then I pinned it to the tank top along with all the other decorative pieces, hemmed it, and finished the tank top up. Next, I worked on her belts. This is the pattern I came up with. It's two front pieces with one long back piece. And this is what it looks like cut out onto the fabric. I lined it with gray. And on the cuff of the pants, I put some interfacing just to make sure it would hold its shape. Then I pinned the two fabrics together, as well as made a slightly smaller black decorative piece to go over the navy blue. I then sewed the belts from some pleather and made sure I left a strip out for where I would add the buckle. For the placement of the belts, I put the waistband on and then just marked where I wanted the belts to sit. With those markings, I made essentially a belt loop with some elastic. For the details on her belt, I just cut out some strips of scrap fabric and then hot glued them directly onto the belts, and this is what it looked like. Next, I worked on the pants and leg cuff. For one of the pant legs, I used this McCall's pattern, at least the bottom half, and then for her asymmetrical crossover side, I had a pant kind of similar, and so I used that. And the fabric I had was not exactly her color, but I figured I would just dye it darker later. But basically, the part that has the crossover, the leg was just way wider, and it folds over just like that. When sewing up the side of the leg, I made sure I left some space at the top where Vi has a cutout portion of the pants. Trying the pants on, the leg was more baggy than I wanted, so I went back in and took it in just a little bit, and it was then fitting a lot better. While I was wearing it, I also marked where I wanted to cut out some of the fabric and then just hemmed those cutouts. With my black shorts on underneath, I then tried it on. It was all done being sewed, and they were ready to be dyed. I used a black polyester dye and just diluted it a lot with the water so it would come out more of a gray color. The base of the pants were done, and it was time to add the green patch on the side of her leg. I made this pattern for the patch and then just ironed the edges down and sewed it directly to the pants. For the leather pouch on the side of her leg, I made this pattern and sewed all the seams together. Then I started on her leg cuff where I measured the bottom of my thigh, my ankle, and then the length I wanted the cuff to be, and took those measurements and put it on my fabric. Then I cut 2 of these cuffs out, sewed them together, and then put them on top of my leg sock thing. I added a strip of pleather to the cuff and it was done. Next, I moved on to the armor pieces. I measured about how big I wanted everything to be, drew up a pattern on some paper, and then cut those patterns out on a fold so that they would be symmetrical. And then I just traced them onto my foam and cut them out. Once everything was glued together, I then used my Dremel to smooth out the edges, and then I went ahead and used my heat gun to mold the foam to have a curve in it. Then I primed the foam with a couple layers of Plastidip and got to the fun part of painting and weathering all of it. To attach all these pieces, I used elastics and glued some pieces, as well as added a piece of foam that could just slide into my boot, and these all ended up working great, and I didn't have to make any permanent changes to a pair of boots I own. And the last thing I made for this cosplay was the jacket. I ended up using a pattern from Cosplay or Cospayton. They have a pattern that you can buy online, and it was super helpful. I'm not going to talk my way through how I made this, because if you want to make it for yourself, I would recommend their pattern. They have instructions on everything, and it was super helpful. So I will leave a link below to where you can buy the pattern from them. I purchased these patches from Etsy seller Geeky Patches. I will also leave a link below to their shop. I've had problems with red fabric bleeding onto other fabrics before, so I washed my jacket afterwards, and I'm really glad I did, because look at all the red that came out. And then I just made the final touches of her buttons and buckles, and yeah, I just made those out of foam, pretty self-explanatory. Paint and weathered them and sewed them directly onto the jacket, as well as the buckle on her shoulder. And with the jacket finished, the cosplay was officially complete. Trying everything on for the first time, I felt so cool, and I loved Arcane so much, and getting to make this was a fun challenge. If you're planning on making your own Vi cosplay, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to answer them in the comments the best I can. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!